Well, welcome back to Cougar Chronicle. And I have to tell you, we have so much fun before we start the segment too, don't we?
I get so nervous that there's going to be a blooper reel that shows up on YC and YouTube.
And we're in trouble.
It's going to be like,
I know.
Because I sometimes don't have a filter, as you know, and I don't always pay attention to whether the red light is on, not on the camera, truthfully speaking. And so, but it's such a passion, such an opportunity to do that.
And I had to tell you, so of course our next guest is Michael Bessette. Hi, I missed you this summer.
Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, school's underway.
It is another start of another school year. It's funny, I was thinking about that on the drive. It's the start of year 10 for yours truly in the district. Yeah, 10 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
had an impact.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I think we all do. Everybody here who works in this district is dedicated to doing the right things, for the right reasons for kids. And I think it's hard work, but it's great work to do.
So it's September, and we were talking about new folks coming in.
And as always, we're unfortunately people retire.
Right.
People take other jobs.
Right.
For whatever reason, people decide that they want to take their path on a different direction away from Kearsarge. And so we obviously want to replenish and bring people in and do that. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing an increase in kind of the alternative school people kind of getting into education that weren't traditional educators.
Can you explain to folks what that means?
So you have your folks that are really kind of going through the path of they went to college, they wanted to be a teacher when they were 5, and they go through that process and they student teach and they move on. And so those are your traditional, quote unquote, traditional teachers. And then what we see is in the world of educational acronyms, it's called a site-based learning plan, and what we'll refer to as an SBLP. So we can put that below.
It's a good acronym,
as
right?
The
Exactly.
acronyms, because
SBLP.
we live in that world. So what that is somebody that has a bachelor's degree, but isn't a traditional teacher, but has taken some courses in education. And then what happens is the state, the New Hampshire Department of Education, will give them a statement of eligibility, or an SOE. You have to live in the acronyms.
Right, you do. Right,
and so basically that says that the district can hire them. And then what happens with the site-based learning plan is they develop a plan on how they're going to meet all the competencies for certification over 3 years.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where, so with there's some work that happens with our principals and our directors and associate directors and Mr. Bessette and myself as Michael and I come through to do stuff. So, but even through all of that, every teacher, whether they're an alternative route teacher, an SBLP person, or a traditional teacher, we invest in them. We do training and we do things like that. And that's really the kind of stuff that we want to highlight, because we just brought in our fresh crop of both brand new teachers, and we had a couple of those who were very excited.
Right.
And we also had some people that are also very excited that touched my heart, because it was the life I lead, that were a career changer.
Yes.
You lived in that same world.
Right.
And so I just wanted to spend a little time and talk about what we do when we talk about the Kearsarge way. How do we do things?
What does that mean?
Especially when we go into building onto the word of the year and some of those things, is what does that kind of look like?
The makeup of our community.
And so walk us through some of that stuff. That's a whole lot of work.
How does that happen?
No pressure there on some of that stuff.
Some of that stuff. You know what I mean. Go ahead.
Stop being so technical.
So SBLPs, and you can throw all the abbreviations in the world of education that you want. It's an internship process. That's all that really is. And it goes back to the days when you were a teacher. You remember Alt 4, Alternative 4, different pathways. And what the state's done over the years is they've recognized that different people come to education through different paths. And so they've tried to create beneficial paths, not only for the individual, but also for the district, so that we can fill in critical roles and shortages that occur. It's nothing new. It really isn't. It's just that they've changed some methodologies about how to go about that process. Interestingly, as we as a school district have embraced over the years, I think since about 2010, 2009 in New Hampshire, competency-based education is the way. It's the way at the university level. It's across the country now. It's the way at the Department of Education. And so every single role in education now has a competency list that basically is outlining all of the core skills and understandings that a person has to have in order to hold that position, that credential.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Beyond that, though, they also ensure about a 6 month to a year's worth of time in the seat, similar to what you and I may have had when we were student teaching or in an internship program or whatever it was that brought us into education as teachers originally, right? So it's a fascinating process, but really it doesn't go into the spirit and the intent of what I think John was trying to express about what is.
I don't know if I did it right, but you get it.
Right?
Good job.
For 9 years, I've had the opportunity to work with and to welcome educators into the fold. And you really think about it, what do you want to accomplish on day one when somebody comes into your district and wants to be a part of something? And they have choices. They have choices throughout the country. They could go to any school they want.
Absolutely.
And the market that we currently face, trust me when I tell you, there's a teacher shortage across the board nationally as well as locally, right? So making sure they understand that they're part of something bigger than themselves, that they are part of something that has a purpose and understanding behind it that really truly inspires, really is part of that Kearsarge message that we want. Even as something as simple as a pin, you know, the message that conveys is that you're part of something that's important, and it reinforces that for people as part of the subtle messaging that we want to give to our newest employees that says, welcome. We want you here, we value you, we embrace you, not only for the skills that you bring, but for who you are and what you are for the kids in the communities that we serve. So that's our underpinning, if you will, on that experience. It's changed over the last decade. When I first started, the way that we approached it was more of an orientation that was rooted in one day of sign this, do that,
There's
get
the fax
this.
machine, there's the copy machine.
Exactly.
You get here's the schedule for pays. Here's who you call if you're
have
sick.
a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. We saw value in that. There was value in that.
Of course there was,
It took away. But over the first 3 or 4 years, I personally went to the former superintendent and advocated for change in the mentoring program that took it to a different place. And I was able to capitalize on federal dollars through Title IIA funds. So at a federal cost, we were able to absorb some of the impact of this as we transitioned into a newer model to pay mentors, teachers, educators, to come to the table. We give them about 30 hours of mentorship time with a mentee. And in most cases, we work really hard to create a condition that over the year, they'll have a monthly 1 hour experience with their mentor, but we all secretly know that they create those conditions that allow for them to have much more contact, right?
Yeah.
But we respect them enough to say, you know, we want to pay you for this, and we can't break the bank, but we can give you X. And we try to create a condition for them to be able to support them over the long haul. We also invite them now, it used to be 1 day, now we do 2 days. And the way that we've created this condition, this welcome aboard that John was referencing, is that we welcome them on day 1, and the whole first half of the morning until lunchtime is spent around talking with our newest educators about things that are rooted in ethics and rooted in the importance of the work that they do. And we try to give them a little dose of the responsibility of, you're an ethical person, you have to be an ethical person, you have to act in an ethical and responsible way in order to satisfy the state's requirements for our educators. It wasn't until about 6 years ago-ish that our state adopted a code of ethics, which was atypical for professions. Plumbers have had them since the 1800s, right? Doctors since Archimedes, I mean, you name it, right? So the honest response is that we relate to the game, and as a state, we adopted them about 6 years ago. They're complex, and taking the time to embrace some of the ethical responsibilities of educators and talking about what that implies not only protects their licensure, but it also protects our kids. Absolutely. So, you know, we really need to keep those boundaries clear. Beyond all of that, though, by having those conversations about what's ethically important and those gray zones of decision making, we also imply a set of values about what we as a community support or don't support when it comes to our interactions with our students and families, right? It sets a tone, it sets an expectation. And we don't want to come off as being harsh, or we don't want to come off as being a group of people who are dictatorial or whatever it is. But there was this famous book that was, I hated this book as an educator, but it was a famous book. It was The First Day of School by
I had it.
Harry
It was
Long.
given to me, yes, right.
I think I found like 12 copies when I moved.
Right, exactly.
The opening paragraph, if you recall that book, is welcome to education. You don't work for yourself.
Right.
You work for a school district, right?
Right.
And I think he intended that message purposefully to set a tone with educators that even though they sometimes feel and sometimes do work in isolated little, cubicle,
Pods,
900 square foot
right.
rooms, that they're not alone. There's a common purpose, a common understanding, and common expectations about how we interact with kids that we have to share those values and those ethics around, right? So that's part and parcel with the message.
Here's where, Michael, your strength is that it's not just the Kearsarge message, which is a big one, but also you bring in what's required by the state. You're bringing the new code of ethics, and you have a full understanding. You've participated in that process, and you understand it. So blending the two, is that?
It is, and I want to say this cautiously because with all humility, people out there do this in every single school district.
Right.
So it's not
Of
about
course they do.
Michael
I know
Bessette's
that, but
personal
still, but we
acumen.
need that.
Yeah. For me, what it really does, though, is it allows me to shape conversations with educators based on experiences here.
Okay.
Here, we have rural roads. And here, it is not an uncommon event for a teacher to be driving down the road on a snowy day and to see a young student who is walking along the side of the road, sometimes dressed appropriately, sometimes not.
Right.
Middle school kid, they never wear
Exactly. And to have to make a critical decision in the moment. Do I pull my vehicle over and offer this student a ride? Something as simple as that is an incredibly complex ethical decision, right?
Yes.
And we talk about decisions like this, and we try to help them to understand that there are signposts and guideposts along the way that help them to know when they're getting close to those moments. The yield sign versus the stop sign is actually a metaphor we use
I like that.
in the training, right?
Yeah, and that's important because we all face those situations, and
Yes.
and discussing it before would help.
Well, and I think it's also important that we're very clear with new employees coming in. I mean, they've gone through the interview process. We've had great conversations. They're excited to go. But we also want to make sure we set the stage of what their fence line looks like.
Right, exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with having those boundaries.
true.
And those boundaries vary from community to community. So when you have something as rich and as wide open as the district that we support, we really have to make sure people are very clear to understand, because giving some historical knowledge, and you look at what does Warner value versus what does Bradford, and a lot of that is the same,
Absolutely.
but there's still some nuanced stuff that
Right,
needs to
cultural,
be,
right,
and it's
differences.
important to talk about
Speaking
that.
of boundaries, I just got the 1 minute wrap up. This
yeah.
happens every time. All last year with you, Michael, it's because the information you're disseminating is so valuable, and we're so grateful for that.
I think if I left our community with one message, it's at the end of that experience, they've created a partnership with other educators serving in that mentorship role.
Okay.
Frankly, hopefully we've opened the door to trust and understanding with our leadership in the district. But the day 2 portion of that and the remaining 12, 14 hours worth of time is built on a relationship building process with a mentor who has the same skill set,
Got it.
same experiences that they do. And the agenda for those discussions, although we provide them with a list of these are some really important topics,
Right.
is really the relationship that's built between the mentor and the mentee that's sustainable,
Love that.
hopefully for the future. And it cultivates and nourishes a relationship that hopefully leads to retention.
Absolutely. Oh, we're grateful for that. We really are.
And it's, again, another coordinated dance of getting things in and making sure that we have the right information in people's hands so they can be productive, they can be great for kids.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we talked about it's a way for us to plow the road, so that way what's behind us is
all positive
Just
and able
good for
to
kids,
go on
100%.
through. Trust and understanding. Those are the words I'm taking from this interview. I love
Yes.
that. Michael, thank you, as
welcome.
always. Happy September. Welcome
see
back
you
to
next
school.
month.
Yeah, we'll see you next month. And we'll be back. I hope you stick around, because this is my absolute favorite segment coming up. What was that, John? What was my favorite segment?
at
in
the
whole
end of the
world?
show, right? At the end of the show?
Ask the superintendent.
every
Yeah.
time.
So
So
stay still. I want you to hear this one. We'll be back on
the Cougar Chronicle.